Hi, I'm Christopher Hine. Today we're going to be talking about armed grappling and what that is overall. So it's going to be a series of videos. We're not going to hit it all today, but a series of videos that we'll be putting out over the next few weeks. This is for the Patreon page first and foremost. It might eventually come out on YouTube, but it's going to the Patreon page first. And thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate it. So we're going to start this kind of from the other end of the spectrum. So when we did the Heinz knife system before, we started from at distance, and we talked about what good distances are and how the attacks come in and all that stuff, and we built down to kind of a midway point where we start grappling. This time we're going to go from the other end of the spectrum, which is the worst position possible, and we're going to build back up to a good position. So we'll talk about all the things you're going to need along the way as we do that. I'm going to get Josh out here. We're going to do work for you guys. Josh? All right, so arguably this is the worst position you're going to find yourself in. The reason is because he's on top of me, so that's bad news. And in addition, he's got both of his hands free, so it's bad. Now, I do have both of my hands free. A worse position could be I could face down. We're not going to address that position in this video, but for rough approximation, this is the worst position. Okay, now when you're in a grappling situation that's not a known situation, meaning I'm not in a tournament or wrestling with my buddy or whatever, first thing I need to do is assess a weapon. Is there a weapon, right? So which means when I find myself here, and hopefully long before I found myself here, I'm going to assess, does he have a weapon in either hand, or does he possibly have a weapon in his waistband that he could get to, right? So that's what I have to do, is assess, is there a weapon? If I see a weapon in his waistband, I'm going to try to go for it first, right? So if I see anything, be it a gun, a knife, whatever, and I see it, I'm going for it the second I see it, because if he gets it, it's real bad for me. So weapon assessment and weapon control is more important in this than position. So don't just immediately try to get him off. I could knock this guy off and then he could shoot me or stab me. So I have to assess the weapon first. So I'm going to scan the hands, takes half a second, scan, anything in those hands, or is there anything in his waist? If there's anything in his waist, I'm going to go for it first. And at least by getting my hands on there, even if he gets his hands down, at least we're struggling over the weapon right here, as opposed to him moving the weapon all around, and that's bad news. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is assess that weapon. Second thing, so now let's say I've assessed it, and let's say he has a weapon in a hand. Okay, I need to get control of that weapon hand, so I have to do that somehow. So I'm going to try and do the simplest thing possible. I'm going to try and reach out and grab that hand. Now, when you grab it, this grab is not any good, because all he's going to do is switch it over to the other side immediately. So anytime I'm grabbing an armed hand, I have to grab the hand and cover this opening in the hand at the same time, right? So I grab it and then I cover this opening. Now the reason I cover is if he opens his hand to switch, it comes into my hand. That's fantastic. But no matter what, if I can keep those fingers closed, he can't open his hand to switch it himself. So it's really good for me. So I have one hand here controlling the wrist and one hand controlling the opening of the hand. Now look, it could be any way. There's no special super great way to do that. Any way possible, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I've assessed there's a weapon. I go to get the weapon. All right, so now let me have you go to this hand real quick. So now when I go to get that weapon, if he's paying attention at all, he is going to pull it away from my grasp like this. Okay, now the second he does that, I don't want to just stay engaged with just my hand. So if he pulls back and he goes like this is just a modified fence on the ground. I don't want to stay here because I'm probably not going to get it. He's going to pull it out of my grip every time. So there he goes, pulls it out. And then he's going to stab me and he's going to hunt and pick it. I'm going to get stabbed in the hands, I'm going to get stabbed in the body, stabbed in the head. It's all bad for me, right? So at this point, what I want to start to do is try and get my feet in if I can. So that'd be great. If I can get my feet in, that'd be magnificent to do that. Okay, if I can't get my feet in, what I'm going to try and do is disturb his balance, right? So I'm going to put my elbows into his thighs here, and I'm going to push my hips up. Now what I want is that. That's what I'm looking for, right? Now I should do it explosively, so hopefully that'll help me get him down, but that's the idea, is I want to knock him down. Now when I knock him down, I could shoot out and grab this hand because now it's here for me, right? So I can control the hand. So I shoot out to grab the hand. Now I'd recommend in this situation, grabbing the hand in the grossest way possible. So you want to shoot your hands out and grab it and control it in like this. Now there's a problem there because I don't have that controlled directly, so he can switch. But when I'm here, I can now find it. If we're like this and I immediately try to go just for the hand, it's likely he's going to pull it back before I get it. So the second those arms go down, I want to control grossly as much as possible, and then as quick as possible, start to work to this hand and get the hand, right? So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So all right, so he's got on top of me. I assess, is there a weapon? In this situation, there's a weapon in that hand. I'm going to try to grab it. I can't grab it. Can I get my foot in to stop him from stabbing me? Now look, this isn't an all-day thing, but it stopped him from stabbing me for a second, and I'll show you some sweeps and things we can do from this position if we get it, but I've roughly suppressed the weapon now. If I can't get that, right, so maybe he's pulling his arm over that or something else, when that weapon's free, I'm going to put my elbows into his thighs here, and I'm going to push my hips up to knock him down like this, okay? Now, the second he hits the ground, I'm going to try and shoot up, grab a hold to this arm, and then work my way to get better control of the hand, okay? So this is all in an ideal situation. It's probably not going to happen as nicely as this, but that's the way you're thinking. It's the process you're thinking through when you're doing this. Okay, now, I have to have weapon control before I can do anything, okay? So my basic ideas are, could I just grab the hand? Could I get my foot in to control? Or could I trap an arm up here by knocking him down? Those are the ways I'm going to work it. When I get a hold of the hand directly, I want to make sure I always have one hand covering his fingers here like this. So that's what I'm looking for. Now from here, it is possible to disarm, and I'm going to try to disarm and see if I can get it from this. Now disarming is a real simple process. I'm either going to turn his hand this way to lengthen all these ligaments and make his grip weak, or I'm going to turn his hand this way to lengthen all these ligaments and make his hand weak. That's basically it. Now there are more ways to do it than this, but these are the gross ways that you're going to use most of the time. This way we call number one. In Aikido we call this a kodagaishi, but I just call it a number one because it's the primary way you're going to get. This way, in Aikido would be called a nikyo. This is called a number two, right? So it's simple. So I'm either going to work one or two. Generally, if I'm trying to work one and he doesn't like it and he turns his hand, he'll turn it into two. If he doesn't like the two and he turns his hand, he'll turn it into one. So I'm usually working one and two as complementary opposites. We'll talk about complementary opposites pretty soon. So I'm going to work those two back and forth. Now if I'm working my number one, what I want to do is, here's my grip block, my basic grip block here. I'm going to crawl this hand over here and grab the hand, as much of the handle of the knife as I can. I'm going to pull it like this. Now that'll already start to weaken his grip on the knife. Then I'm going to take this side and I'm going to push the knife, okay? And that's our number one. So we're here like this. I crawl, 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 grab that handle of the knife here, and I pull it a little bit. That's going to start to break it. Then I'm going to use this hand to push it the rest of the way through. That's my number one. Okay, if he turns it the other way, I'm going to use my hand on this side to push the handle of the knife. I'm going to use this to drive the handle this way. So, the handle this way. And so I drive it up, boom, and pop it out. So we're here like this. If he turns it the other direction, this goes straight up, this goes into the knife, and you see there's my disarm that way, right? Now I'll be working those back and forth. Now he's probably going to get his other hand involved. I'm going to have all kinds of trouble with that and not be able to simply pop this free, right? So it's not going to be an easy pop out. But that's one of the things that we're struggling over. So once I have it, can I start to disarm, right? I'm either going to turn that number one or turn that number two. Now we're going to go into detail on those more later for you guys, but I'm just giving you a gross summary of what's going on here. Okay, now while I'm getting that, understand that I have this side of his body controlled. So after I have control of the weapon, I can start to work position. So A, I assess, where is the weapon? B, I control or suppress. So I have some way of keeping that weapon from working freely to attack me. Then after that, how do I get a position change, right? So this position sucks for me. I want to escape this position. What are my basic position escapes going to be? Well, I have this hand already trapped. So I'm going to try to nudge him that way because he can't base his hand out, right? If he had this hand available to him and I nudged him that way, he would put that hand down like this, okay? But when I have it here and I try and do that, he's got to try and reach across, all kinds of other stuff. It's going to be hard for him. Okay, now he also has this leg here that he could post out. So if I push him that way, he could shoot that leg out like that to stop me from throwing him over. So what I'm going to try and do is control one whole side of his body. I'm going to drop this leg over his leg as much as I can. I'm going to hold this as much as I can. I'm going to push my hips up as high as I can. And I'm going to roll him over into this position. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, and that's our position change, which is real good for me. So there's lots of ways to do those escapes. I'm going to make more videos for you guys just on those specific escapes. But here's our progression that we're using, right? One, assess. Is there a weapon anywhere? So one in his waist, so one in his hands. Okay, can I get a hold of it or suppress it in some way? Okay, if I can't do that just off the bat, I'm going to try and make him lose his balance by putting my hips or my elbows in his thighs here, push up to make him lose his balance, shoot out grossly, grab this arm, and then work over here to this. Now I'm going to show you a whole series for that because there's a lot of little things that can happen in that situation. Now once I have control of this hand, I'm going to try and knock him that way. And I'm going to do it by covering this leg so he can't sit it out. And then I'm going to up my hips as high as I can, and I'm going to pop him over. And that's what we're looking for. All right, so that's the basic summary of what we're going to be doing on the ground, right? One, assess a weapon. Is there a weapon anywhere? And that's what you should be doing in a real life situation, right? So a non-known situation. A known situation is, look, I'm meeting my friends to wrestle, or I'm in a tournament or something. You know that there's no weapon involved, and if there is a weapon involved, there are other people there who are going to take care of it for you, so you don't have to do that. But in a real life situation, you never know when there's going to be a weapon involved, right? Now, I would also say assess if there's other people. But because he's on top of us on the ground, it doesn't matter if you've assessed other people. They're coming in anyway. So you need to deal with the guy on top of you right now, and then we can get to the other person. But from where you're at now, it's really going to make no tactical difference. So you don't really need to assess what else is going on other than, you know, maybe we're near rolling off a cliff or into traffic or something terrible. So the first thing I got to do is assess the weapon situation, right? So where's the weapon? If there's one in his waist, I want to control it. If there's one in hand, I want to get it. That leads us to step 2, suppress or control the weapon. Now that means if I could just reach out and grab it, I'll reach out and grab it. If I could stick my foot in to keep him from stabbing me, or suppress him in some other way, catch his elbow to keep him from stabbing me, that's what I would do. If those aren't working for me, I can't just immediately grab it, I'm going to try and make him lose his balance by sticking my elbows in, pop my hips up, and then once that hand hits the ground, I'm going to fish for that hand and then try and control the hand directly. So that's where I'm working towards. Now once I have control, can I disarm? I'm probably going to disarm with either a number 1, and that's turning the hand this way, right, like this. I can show you with Josh, like this. Or a number 2, turning the wrist this way, right? And we're going to make more videos talking about what a 1 and a 2 is and all those things. And there's other ones we can talk about too. But basically, I'm roughly going to work that number 1 or number 2. If it comes out, cool. Now I have the knife, and I'm going to try and get this guy off of me. If it doesn't come out, then that's fine. At least I have control of the weapon, and I'm going to try and get this guy off of me. So that leads us to our next step, which is change position. How do I change position? Well, the first way I'm going to try to do that is just to nudge him to the side I'm controlling. So if I'm controlling his left hand and his left leg, I'm going to roll him to his left, right? So that's the idea, is I'm going to take him to that direction. Now that's not going to work a lot of times, and we're going to talk about all the other things that can happen in that. But this is our basic overview of what happens if you find yourself in that rough position. Assess, control, or suppress. If you can disarm in that, do so. If you cannot, change position, right? So that's what we're working towards in that whole thing. I'm going to make a bunch more videos for you guys talking about the details of this thing, but it's our first video, and that's your overall view of the horrible position. I'm Christopher Hine. This is Joshua T. Thanks for watching.